I really do feel like I felt better the day I went carnivore because I was living like a zombie before it. I think for me, the most eye-opening moments where I realized this whole plants are trying to kill you. How can this diet to me feel like it's not forever? I want to do
Mm.
it forever.
She calls herself Steak and Butter Gal. A former vegan who says 6 years on plants destroyed her health. Now she claims meat brought her back to life. But her story might challenge everything you think you know about food. Hi everyone, Dr. Eric Westman here, and of course at my channel I review and debunk nutritional misinformation online. But every now and then I get to interview the movers and shakers in the nutritional space that, I perceive who are the movers and shakers. And Bella, welcome to the interview.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Westman. It's an honor.
So those who know you as Steak and Butter Gal, and caught my attention a few years ago, and have been watching and doing reacts videos from time to time. I'm very curious to talk to you. And for those who don't know who you are, how did you get into this space? How about a little background, and then you have to include the piano playing. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, background on how I even discovered a carnivore lifestyle was because I was struggling with my health to begin with. And I do blame it on the vegan diet that I tried to heal myself with. And I did a vegan diet for 6 years. So for 6 years, I was waiting, 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 hoping that I guess magically my health would get better and my skin issues would go away, but it just never did. And it got worse. My health also got worse to the point where I lost my period completely. So, thanks to a vegan diet, I stumbled across a carnivore diet. And a lot of people, when they hear this story on paper, it just sounds insane. Because how can somebody go from a vegan diet eating only plants to only eating meat on a carnivore diet? And a lot of people forget that I actually tried a standard American diet for my whole life growing up already, so I already ruled that out. I think that actually caused my cystic acne and my psoriasis and eczema. So that's why I moved to that vegan diet and became more health and diet conscious um, to try to heal myself. But because the vegan diet actually made everything worse after 6 years of being on it, I decided to really commit to a carnivore diet because it really was the last resort for me. I was desperate to heal the skin, and I was performing a lot of concerts. Every single week, I was on stage, and I was a pianist, studying to be a classical pianist. And during this time when I was making the switch from veganism to carnivore was when I was studying at Juilliard in New York, and it was just a very competitive, busy time. As a student for anyone, you're going to lectures, you're practicing 8 hours a day, then you're being on stage performing, and then you do it all over again every week. And so I was really feeling the toll on my mental health and also on my capability to perform, to be a performer. Because I was having memory slips on stage more and more as a vegan. And I was very confused, like, how is this possible? Because when I go online and I learn from these vegans who are praising this lifestyle as literally the best diet in the world, you're going to save the planet, you're also going to save yourself. I was getting memory slips. So what the heck was happening? But for me, the real wake up call was when I lost my period. Yes.
Well, yeah, may I interject? Why didn't you, like most, just go to the doctor and get put on medicines? And often it is the last,
Ah,
when the period goes away, or you can't perform or do your job right, you
yeah.
go to the doctor, they give you medicine, and they don't even suspect the vegan diet to have done it. Why didn't you do that?
That's a good question. I think when I lost my period, that was my wake-up call to finally consider doctors. And I still remember the call that I had with my mom because that's when I was already panicking. I was like, "How am I gonna have kids one day?" Which is one of my biggest dreams is to be a mom. Like, how am I gonna have kids if I don't even have my period? And so that's when I finally told my mom that I was struggling, no more period, and she was the one that really forced me to go to the doctor. And she was very concerned. So I booked that doctor's appointment to actually get a full complete lab panel to just see how my body and my health was. And so it was after getting the results of my blood work with this doctor in New York that she was the one that sat me down and she asked me questions about like, "So what are you eating?" She actually asked me about my diet. And I said I was on a vegan diet. Yeah, and so she's the one who said, "You either supplement if you insist on staying vegan or you eat some animal foods." Okay? And so thanks to her, I opened up my mind to the possibility of eating meat or animal foods or eggs again. And so I went online and that is what I searched, vegans eating meat again, because I was just so curious to see if there was anyone out there. I didn't even think of searching anything like that until that day. And so when I searched vegans eating meat again, it showed up vegans going carnivore that day. And I found people like Kelly Hogan, I found people like, at the time, Azra Conlu and Kasumi Chris. So these 2 women, they were Asian, and they were sharing their story of going from vegan to carnivore themselves, and this is like 6.5, 7 years ago now. And so thanks to these 2 women specifically, it gave me the courage that I needed to just go carnivore myself.
Fascinating. And then, how fast did you notice a change in how you felt?
Man, when you eat nothing but fruits and vegetables day in and day out for 6 years, that first bite of any animal food is really quite unreal. My first bite was eggs scrambled in Kerrygold butter, and I still remember that first bite of scrambled egg as if I suddenly went from seeing life in black and white to color. It was in that moment of just eating eggs. The first bite, I felt like I was coming back to life. And it could have just been the explosion of the flavor, that I was tasting for the first time, but, I couldn't stop eating butter, okay? So that's the biggest thing that I still remember is that first bite of Kerrygold and eggs, the butter and the fat is what woke me up, and it awakened this craving and this insatiable appetite for more fat, and it had to be butter for some reason. So all I could think about was, "Man, I could really just eat more of that scrambled egg cooked in butter because, man, that butter flavor was so good."
Then
To the
where did the
point. Yeah.
steak come in?
Oh,
Steak and butter, yeah.
yes. So, well, I started with scrambled eggs cooked in Kerrygold butter because I was scared to eat meat.
Sure,
I heard
yeah.
all of these horror stories, of vegans literally making you feel ashamed of eating meat. The way that they brainwash, I like to say, at least I felt like I was brainwashed by their beliefs. I was very ashamed and afraid to eat meat. Even
Mm.
handling raw meat and like seeing the blood, like I felt a little bit nauseous just looking at that. So I didn't choose to eat meat first. But after eating the scrambled eggs, I was like, "This tastes so good. I feel so good. Let's move on to the meat." Ground beef was next. So I ate ground beef as my first meat, and it just tasted so good. Like, I couldn't believe how flavorful meat and animal foods could taste without any seasonings, any sauces. I was just really shocked. And then I started just combining, like, naturally ground beef, scrambled eggs, and butter. And then I moved on to real beef steaks, so ribeye, New York strips. I watched so many tutorials on how to even cook a steak properly. It was a total new world and a learning curve for me. And I have to say it was very exciting and I enjoyed every moment of being a carnivore because it just felt that good. I really do feel like I felt better the day I went carnivore because I was living like a zombie before it.
And, that's not surprising to me. People tell me that the first day their hunger is gone, they're not craving the same things, and, I wasn't expecting the first bite. That's a good response. Wendy, how do you notice the change? The first bite, I'll usually say, it may take a day or two for the hunger to go on and the cravings, but
Mm.
I can understand that, and I suppose egg and butter gal doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah, steak.
How did all this all come about?
It
Yeah, the story of the podcast or the YouTube channel, and
it it felt like it was all meant to be because at no point of my life did I ever even imagine or think that I would be putting myself on social media, much less like making my life, surrounded by it.
I know exactly.
Yeah. So of course you can relate. Yes. Exactly, and it's truly a calling and it's a blessing that we get to live out and help people through the internet, which is really such a gift. If you do it the right way and you are spreading truth and goodness and positivity, I feel like social media is a superpower. But I I grew up thinking that I would just be a pianist. Like that's all I studied to be and that's what I wanted to be was a pianist. And so, it was all happening 2019 to 2020, the pandemic happening, everything shut off. Even my school switched to only online, and
Mm,
I was trying to finish my master's degree at Juilliard. So, it was very different. Year 1 to year 2, totally different type of student life. Everything was online. I was trapped in my teeny tiny New York apartment and no more concerts, obviously, no more even going outside and
mm,
being a pianist out in the real world. So instead of just practicing 8 to 10 hours in my apartment, I was like, let's do something else with my time. It's not like I'm going to perform next week or next month or maybe even in the next half year, who knows? So I decided to shift my focus to sharing my carnivore journey because I, at that time, was so, so impressed with all of the benefits I was feeling. It was just like the perfect timing. I couldn't shut up about it. So I decided to share my carnivore healing journey on Instagram first because I already felt very welcome there. And this is 6.5 years ago. The carnivore community on Instagram back then versus now is quite different in that
yeah.
back then it was a very teeny tiny tight-knit little group online. It was just a little pocket of the internet. And so once you're in it, everybody kind of knows each other. And I just felt so supported by the carnivore women. And so I was like, wow, I literally watch everybody's videos. Why don't I start posting some things? And so that's really how it started was just an Instagram food diary or a healing journey for myself and for the community to follow along. And I think it really sparked a lot of interest by the community because I think I was one of the younger ones to share 7 years ago. And they were so supportive and uplifting, and they wanted more. They were like, Bella, we want to see more videos. We want longer videos. Can you do a YouTube channel for us? And I did. And that's how YouTube and Instagram kind of started around the same time. And thanks to the YouTube community, they were like, we would love more support. Is there any way we could maybe like gather together in a community setting? So I started the Steak and Butter Gang. And I really think it was the timing. Everybody was stuck at home. Everybody was looking for connection in a way. And so it just worked out to happen all at once. And I've continued it ever since.
So for those who aren't familiar with you and your YouTube channel, it's fantastic. And really, do you only eat steak and butter?
Now I don't. Now I've opened up my variety. So
Like you
year
did
one,
for
I
a while.
was exactly. Yeah. I was doing it for the entirety of my deep healing journey, which was year one, year two. I would say
Mm,
pretty much just steak, butter, eggs. Eggs kept my carnivore
okay.
diet cheaper as a student. Yeah. So if I, replaced half a pound of the beef that I potentially would have eaten with eggs, it did cut the cost down. But it was predominantly steak and butter. Therefore, I just in the moment I was like, what should I call my handle? Steak and butter are what I've been changing my life with at the moment, and I'm obsessed with these 2 foods. Let's just call it steak and butter gal, and that's how it kind of came to be. I just chose the 2 top foods that I was eating the most of as a newbie carnivore, and I went with it. But now I'm 6.5 years in, and I'm eating like raw cottage cheese at every meal now. I'm eating raw smoked Gouda. I'm eating a lot more dairy than I ever have, actually. But emphasis on the raw. I don't eat pasteurized dairy. It just doesn't work with me. I eat salmon. I love shrimp. I love chicken wings. So I've really opened up my variety because I've healed enough where I could.
But at first you felt you couldn't? Or did you
At
test those other foods and
Exactly.
gravitate
At
back?
first, I had histamine intolerance, so I had to keep my foods limited to really high quality beef, butter, eggs.
Yeah, thank you. Metabolically, as you deep dive into this, it's very similar to something that we've studied and used in our clinics at Duke for decades now, and that's a keto diet. And so when people are faced with, "Oh, the carnivore diet," actually, it's very familiar to me, and I passively would allow people not to eat vegetables, and definitely there's no fruit if you're doing the strict keto level.
Yeah.
So, I'm finding myself reassuring people that a carnivore diet is not as weird as you think, and to me, it's very metabolically very similar to something that I've seen also reverse, the psoriasis, eczema, well, but although our focus is mainly diabetes and obesity and metabolic syndrome, I'm sure you have clients or, people who've reversed those
Oh, yeah.
things too. Uh,
Many
so,
people.
the histamine reactions are very interesting, and I do get a subset of folks who come in that, I don't know if it's, is it amplified a little bit if you've switched from vegan, or is it, and now this is really, I'm asking you, a leader in the grassroots movement, to scan and learn and teach
Yeah.
me. I'm in academia, and we're supposed to know things first, right? No, not in this world. So I see people, especially if they have the bendy, Ehrler's, Danlos, mast cell, histamine. There's some kind of cluster there that, I wonder if you've seen enough. Well, how many people have you helped? Hundreds, thousands, millions. And what is your view on what's going on when someone has a health issue or switches to what you're doing or what you're helping them do?
Oh, wow. I'm honored to even be asked this by someone as knowledgeable and amazing as you. Like, firstly, I want to just share that so many people in my community, and yes, it's a very hardcore carnivore community, they always credit you. They always tell me, oh, I actually found out about this diet from Dr. Eric Westman. So you are making a huge difference with your videos that you post on YouTube. But I do have, like, the ability to just see so many people walk into the community, either needing to heal, extremely sick, or just wanting to lose weight. Like, I get the entire spectrum, and I think those who really need to heal, at least from what I've seen, and I personally live a very high-fat carnivore lifestyle, and I understand that my intensity of high fat is not for everyone. But specifically, I'm seeing when women come in with hormone issues, with autoimmune issues, with any type of health concerns that they are really trying to heal, the moment they start, gradually upping the fat, and this doesn't require lowering the protein, but the moment they start upping the fat more and more and more and intentionally doing it consistently, it doesn't count if you're just doing 2 days in a row more fat and you're not seeing results. It doesn't work like that. But if you are consistently upping the fats and you're sticking to it, there is always some type of benefit in their healing needs. So for specifically the women who need to heal hormonal issues like thyroid, they need to bring down the cortisol, or maybe they have PCOS, or they're trying to bring back the period, they have amenorrhea. Almost 100% of the time when they up the fats, it gets better. If not, it heals completely. And so that's the consistent thing. If there's anything to note that I've seen over the past 6 years now, it's higher fat or just upping the fat as a carnivore is incredibly effective at healing pretty much all things. But I wanna emphasize women because I work with mostly women. Not a lot of men come in here, mostly women. That's what I've noticed.
Well, and would you say you've helped hundreds, thousands,
I
mil
Ooh, well, I think our tens of thousands maybe? I think so,
yeah,
yeah.
well, that's phenomenal. I mean, that's more
Thank you.
patients than a doctor sees in, years, right? So,
Mm,
or they might have a panel of a few thousand people they follow, but, um, and of course, the information we get, we trust people are telling the truth, right? And,
yeah.
I'm always just a little worried about the comments below and all that, but once you get into a group that's, really looking for support, I think we can see things pretty clearly, uh, on well, so I wonder
Yes.
in the, teaching that I do, which is ketovore or, allowing a little bit of vegetables, I see this kind of healing too. But I would love to do if there were, a magic wand of studies to do, there would be a carnivore versus, 20-gram total carb per day, 40 grams, 60 gram, and kind of see. But it seems to me the lower you go and then down to zero with carnivore, the kind of the stronger the dose is in terms of diabetes reversal, obesity, and even for hormonal things. Does that make sense? It,
It makes a lot of sense, and I would confirm that, at least based on my experience with working with so many people. And I am not within the community when you join, I am not the expert, nor am I the coach. I'm not really the leader besides just being the example on YouTube. I talk about a carnivore diet using my own experience, and that's the only way I feel comfortable too. I never try in my content to tell people, well, you have to do this or this is how you must eat. I just share with my own experience, and it does inspire a lot of people to dig deeper. And so that's why I'm very grateful for channels like yours, Dr. Westman, where you guys can provide the evidence and the studies and the knowledge and the medical support. But I'm constantly just sharing my story, my experience, my healing, and it actually has successfully gotten a lot of interest. And so I'm seeing these people who are looking for the serious support, they join the community. I do have a team of coaches in there, and they are the ones kind of giving guidance. If any of these community members need more guidance than coaching, that's when we recommend Dr. Chafee, Dr. Westman, maybe go to their groups, maybe hire, a keto-friendly doctor to give you a consultation. So we're always very aware of the needs of each member, and sometimes we recognize our support is not enough. So but when we notice somebody coming in, they used to be ketovore or keto, and we do have a lot of those, and then they go strict carnivore with us, most of the times, it's even better results. It's
yeah,
even
yeah.
more healing.
That's my impression too, and although it gets a little harder for them to deal with their family and friends sometimes, where they're
Exactly.
I just don't understand. I never was, um, worried about what other people thought I should eat. Of course, at one meeting we put on, there was a doctor who came locally. He said, where we were in Minnesota at the time, he said, "My mother hate to cook." We were all, "What?" In fact, she had the I Hate to Cook cookbook, volume 1 and volume 2, and actually they exist. And so he then leaves with, "My mother put hate into the food." So, I think my mother wasn't like that, but she didn't really get into it and, would do things like boil cow tongue on the stove for the afternoon, and, well, at the time, I didn't think it smell very great. But anyway, I think we learn a lot of that socialization. And there was People's Pharmacy is an NPR show. They did an interview with me and a journalist who tried carnivore, and she felt like she couldn't go out with her friends. And I wonder what your response would be so this aired just recently on NPR. I think it's on their podcast. So it's mid-September. But what would your response be to someone who would then say, so she's mid-20s, but I can't go out with my friends to eat if I all I do is eat meat. What's your
Uh,
advice there?
yeah. I actually have a lot of tips on this because I love, Asian cuisine. So let me share with you my Asian secrets on how you can actually eat out pretty easily with friends, with your loved ones, family, partner. Just go to any Chinese hot pot restaurant because that is truly a carnivore heaven. Hot pot,
Yeah.
if you don't like Chinese hot pot, go to Korean barbecue. Okay. Or if you don't like that, Japanese barbecue slash sashimi places, also carnivore heaven. And then the fourth one, not Asian, but Brazilian. Any Brazilian steakhouse, I promise you, your friends are going to love you for taking them there because it's really not just meat. It's so many other foods that they can enjoy with you. Meanwhile, you can be the one sticking to only meat. I think more and more these types of restaurants are becoming more popular with just everyone. And so there's more openings of these restaurants. So there's always a way to find an affordable Chinese hot pot. A lot of these are all you can eat, so even better. You can save money, eat a lot. Japanese sushi, sashimi, or Japanese yakiniku, and Korean barbecue. And then the fourth one, Brazilian, I think it's called churrascarias. All you can eat at these Brazilian steakhouses. So it's honestly perfect for social outings and for celebrations and eating out.
Yeah, that's great. And the idea that, well, there is, when you were vegan, though, there is this kind of push to proselytize, right?
Yes.
Or people are going to look at you. Why aren't you having this? Why aren't you having? What would be your response to that?
When I was vegan, I would say actually quite similar to how I respond as a carnivore now. I'm doing this for my health. I'm doing this to heal psoriasis and
And if
eczema.
you watch Sacred Cow and some other documentaries, it's actually good for the planet too. It's just it doesn't
Exactly.
r- not to that level of awareness in pop culture, I'm afraid. Uh, you know, shifting gears, I looked up the YouTube channel you have, Steak and Butter Gal, and I saw you were talking to your father in China. And of all places in the world in the last 10 years, taught the hospital, the Baoan Hospital in Shenzhen, and Jackie Eberstein, who worked with Dr. Atkins for 30 years. We were both invited to help the hospital learn about low carb and how to implement it. And I remember, what a long haul to travel there. But when I got onto the hospital ward, the dietitian comes down and he goes, "Oh, because he'd been watching all my YouTube channels or YouTube. There weren't a whole lot at the time. I think the other places in China thought I might have been Eric Berg because at the time he had such, well, he still has massive popularity, but the Shenzhen, what an interesting place, and they taught us or treated us, like royalty coming in, had a banner out front, welcome Dr. Westman and Jackie Eberstein. And so that said, I listened to your interview with your father, and I think it's wonderful. And yet I'm the critic at the. I mean, if I was going to allow a paper to be, so as a referee, we review papers and we make sure to get something peer reviewed, that there's certain information there. And so you were talking to your father about the cancers that he's had, and I wonder if the diagnosis was really there. And I don't mean to be anything other than supportive in these questions. I wonder how the diagnosis of the cancers were made, and then if there was any, because to live, I think it was 8 years with pancreatic cancer, it really kind of depends on how the diagnosis was, where it was, that sort of thing, because there was, a recent paper on metastatic pancreatic cancer using a keto diet, and I mean, it didn't do much because at that stage, it's so late, it's hard to make that kind of change. There's another study going on with glioblastoma, which is a very difficult to treat brain cancer, and, it's not like an overnight cure. That's what I'm just trying to say. So, to, balance the hope and the promise of this approach, I need to be just a little cautious on maybe there wasn't the proper diagnosis, or prove me wrong, please.
Yeah, well, from what I know, and my dad communicates with me mostly in Chinese, and I am able to communicate the way that I need to with Chinese, but I'm not fully fluent. But from what I know that he's told me, he caught the signs of the pancreatic cancer very early on, and the moment that he found out about it, he did the Whipple surgery.
I see. Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense. That
Yes.
so the Whipple is a very, intensive, operation that reroutes the intestines, and the idea is to surgically remove it. Yeah. Okay. Whipple, um, uh, this makes sense. So, the one reason I asked that is when I was at the hospital in Shenzhen, they diagnosed things and were active about things way before you would see action here in the US. So, like, someone had a little elevated blood sugar in the ER there, and they hospitalized them, and I was kinda shocked. "What the heck?" We would give them, an insulin and tell them, "Go home," and I'm afraid most doctors wouldn't say, "Don't drink sugar in the drinks," which should have been said. But so and whenever we're looking at information, even around the country in the US, getting to make sure that the diagnosis and then having a Whipple, actually, the Whipple procedure may have been curative by, if they were able to get all of the cancer, yeah. Okay, that's awesome.
See. Yeah. So, well, I'm curious to know, are there many patients who, when they do the Whipple surgery, after it's done, the cancer reemerges or it has spread to other places?
Yeah, I will look up that percentage,
Yes.
sure. Yeah, if they miss if they're unable to get the whole tumor, for example, that there may be
Got it.
recurrence. So that would be the statistic to look up. If a Whipple procedure for pancreatic cancer, what's the prognosis and what kind of recurrence happens? I'll bet it's also, operator dependent, meaning the surgeon to surgeon, there would be a difference if he was at a uh, very good, tertiary care, meaning the, seeing the worst of the worst patients, those doctors tend to be able to get better results. But,
Yes.
that's great, and of course, wish you and him all the best. The cancer is the sort of fortress that it's hard to get up there and or even make a dent in it.
Totally understand. And I think with my dad, what he feels like was so effective post surgery was most people who had that surgery, he tells me, need a very long recovery or they don't fully recover back to how they were before. But he feels like he's even stronger, even healthier, even more alive after the surgery because he adopted a ketogenic meat heavy diet. And he's also, every year he tests if there's any new cancer, and there's not. And so he feels like that's also his change in diet.
Great. Now getting back to, your community, then
Yeah.
what's the kind of classic, it's even probably old hat now, of someone comes in and these things get better or resolve. What are you seeing?
Okay, so there's always some type of energy increase, right? So they're sleeping better, their energy is up, their mood is, uplifted and positive. They don't A lot of people will say they feel like this gray cloud over their life has shifted and cleared. And so they just feel happier and more motivated in general. The more like serious, impressive ones, pant sizes, like a lot of pant sizes down, uh, body is changing, right? And with the women, they're starting to see bloat going away, the waist getting slimmer, yet they're not losing fat in the places that they don't want to lose fat. And that's really awesome because maybe that's a sign that the hormones are functioning as well. We even get women coming in, thinking that they're in menopause, but their period comes back and they're not necessarily very happy, but
No, they're like,
interesting.
I've had a few.
Yes, exactly.
Uh,
A lot of people, their hair is growing back finally, or their hair has stopped falling finally. Um, a lot of people come in with skin issues, understandably, and the skin issues clear up. Cystic acne is clearing up. Autoimmune issues are clearing up. That one, we do see a lot of alignment with doing a lion diet. So, those with autoimmune healing needed, they do benefit greatly from a lion diet, which is just beef, salt, or ruminant meat, salt, water. And then, like you mentioned, diabetes reversal happens pretty much every single week in the community. And we are able to track this because we have a weekly NSV celebration call. So NSV stands for non-scale victory. We don't necessarily want to focus too much on that number on the scale. So we like to shift our focus on what other things are happening. And so I'm pretty confident to say like you can pick any chronic issue or illness, and there's at this point been someone who's been able to improve it or feel like they've been able to heal completely from it.
yeah, and the first time I heard of this kind of grassroots effects and then summary of this was from Craig and Maria Emmerich, who have their own kind of cookbook empire that they would be presenting at meetings. Here's what people write me about how they're feeling better, and so I could wait for the randomized control trial and the literature and that comes up in PubMed and ignore all of this stuff, but I'm afraid I can't ignore it. And
Mm.
I actually wrote a course on the carnivore diet, and we have it for available at adapterlifeacademy.com for those people who want to deep dive. And what struck me is the science is you know the biochemistry, the physiology is very similar to a keto diet. I think the ketone metabolism, the lack of glucose, and meaning lack of carbohydrates and lack of gluten, other simple sugars, and all these other preservatives make it a relatively healthy approach, even compared to all the other things we could do. But one of the things that really struck me most was that the internal anatomy of a human is more like that of a carnivore. So that the stomach, the intestines, when you compare the human to, say, a gorilla, internally they're entirely different. So even though people say, "Oh, we're descended from gorillas, we should have leaves," no, the intestines are entirely different. So that was it's something that was persuasive for me, and then, um, just the common sense, or it's called face validity. I finally met Anthony Chafee at a meeting in London recently when you say, plants can't run away, so their defense mechanism is to put toxins into their leaves so that usual mammals will eat them and never eat them again when, of course, humans self-administer horseradish and hot peppers over and over again. We're not normal mammals, but I think that made me kind of say, well, right. I mean, there are the neurotoxins, yeah, that would kind of make the animal not want to eat the leaf again, including humans. I mean, so when you step back, what's convinced you other than your own personal experience, or other people must have been trying to dissuade you or tell you you're wrong? Why do you persist in teaching this?
Mm. Well, I've I think for me, the most eye-opening moments where I realize maybe Dr. Chafee is right about this whole plants are trying to kill you. I know he's making a bold statement, but there is a lot of truth in that. and I feel it when I have foods that have spices on it. Spices alone will give me a runny nose the next morning. When I eat out and I request for my steaks to be cooked in its own beef fat, but they bring it to me and it's clearly cooked in seed oils because I can taste it now. My taste buds are very, very acute now. The next day, my skin will break out in a rash. So I feel like every time I have little slivers of plants or seed oils and my body breaks out or it clearly shows symptoms that it is not happy and it is inflamed, proves to me very, very, very clearly that plants are trying to make me sick, or plants are not agreeing with me, or plants are trying to inflame me. Because when you live so clean on a carnivore diet for so long, any little bout of spices or seed oils, at least for me, do give me a very clear signal where I can feel it in my nose, and it's usually congestion and runny nose as that first symptom when I have spices. And then for seed oils, it's always an itchy rash in my chest area, and it's like red little rash-like bumps. It goes away after like 48 hours for both, but why would I choose to eat plants when eating those types of things already give me such strange symptoms? And I understand as well, like looking at the other side of it, that some people can tolerate and still thrive and be happy and live their best life eating some fruits and vegetables and just whatever they want, but with a lot of animal foods. And I see those testimonials and I see those real life accounts online all the time. I just realized that I'm not one of those people because every time I try to introduce them, I see what it causes in my body and in my skin. And
Well, you know what?
yeah,
So, that's fantastic because these personal experiences matter, and I think they generalize beyond, but, maybe most people are numb to it or can't make the connection because they have congestion and little rashes all the time, right? Yeah, so taking away
Accurate.
sort of going out into a very quiet area for a while, you're able to hear better. So just kind of a weird metaphor, but, um,
It's so
so,
true.
uh Dr. Chafee, a pretty impressive guy. He was a former professional rugby player and super smart. And he gave one of the talks, led one of the sessions at the Public Health Collaboration of the UK in London. There, I also saw some research by Dr. Professor Isabella Cooper, where they looked at women who had done keto for on average, I think 5 years, and they were all about 35, and they looked which was, uh, an unusual study because normally you take people on an American diet, put them on keto, and then see no, these people are already doing a keto diet. And she explained that many of them didn't really ever wanna eat carbs again, but they did it for science, They'll sacrifice their body. So the parameters they were looking at all kinda look bad after 3 weeks of eating the standard UK guideline, and then they went back to eating keto, and she used for the first time a term we've tried to use, haven't put it in a paper yet, called euketonemia, meaning normal ketones in the blood, as opposed to ketosis, which osis means the abnormal condition of. And so the studies actually look at longevity markers, and it's starting to, I would say the young scientists are looking at this in a great new way. It's not just, let's use this as a therapy and then, oh my gosh, stay away from it. It's more, what if people would eat this way, all the time? Maybe this would be healthier and people would live longer. I mean, do you have any concern about doing this for a long period of time? And, or has anyone else had trouble on this recent podcast with People's Pharmacy? They asked, well, there has to be something bad about this. I mean, people say drugs are great, there are no side effects, and they always have side effects. I mean, so, but maybe this is one of the best ways to eat. I don't know.
I Yeah, I guess we won't know until we experience it ourselves. And so my answer is, when I'm asked, do I think this is healthy or sustainable long term? My answer is absolutely yes. And I base it off of my own experience because I'm almost 7 years in, like just over 6.5 years now. And I can confidently say that the benefits that I have experienced are better and better and better with every year that I stick to it. So my energy now is so amazingly high. Like I just feel like when I wake up in the morning, I want to do stuff. I want to achieve stuff. I want to get my to-do list done because I have the energy and the motivation for it. I think that requires really, really good optimal health. And it also requires really fantastic, pristine mental health to want to keep doing difficult things, and I find joy in doing that now. Whereas before when I was on a vegan diet, and I love that I have these 2 lives that I can compare because one is on plants, one is on meat. When I was on vegan diet, it took a lot of willpower to do anything even remotely
Mm,
difficult, you know? And so to live these 2 lives based on 2 different fuels and just see how effortless it is now to do things that I've always wanted to get done, how can this diet to me feel like it's not forever? I wanna do
mm.
it forever, only because I feel better and better. So, yeah.
Are you still, playing tickling the ivories?
Yes, absolutely. Now it's for fun. Now I can just enjoy it as a hobby. It's not like this dooming, "Oh my gosh, I need to make it into a career." I really like that I'm in this position where I can just truly enjoy piano for what it is, which is this amazing spiritual experience. And so when I sit down at the piano, I try my best to film it and share it online. But sometimes the most magical moments are when I'm alone with my piano and I'm just in it. I'm just in the music. I highly recommend for everyone to listen to classical music and even better yet, take some piano lessons.
What's your favorite piece or pieces to play?
My favorite composer is Beethoven. I just connect with Beethoven so much. His piano sonatas are truly the most incredible experience to learn and perform and play. Yeah, Beethoven.
I was, a few years back realizing I didn't practice enough piano, and so I came up with the idea that at work, if someone gets a certain milestone, I would make up the excuse to play a song, and it kind of morphed into this. People choose a song, and so I have this little spinet out in the waiting room. It's also a way to see if someone has powers of observation. I'll say, "Did you notice that piano in the waiting room?" Most people know they don't expect it to be there, right? And so I'll ask them to choose their favorite song. You get the lead sheet, fake book thing off, or even music notes will give you for a fee the written out notes. And I'm
Right.
a Chopin etude. I can do two of them level of, and some of those Beethoven sonata middle sections are just unbelievably gorgeous. But, the most fun I've had is when the patient there, starts singing a song, and sung one who was a former opera singer. She'd lost 50 pounds and just belted out this, so, yeah, music, is a way to connect people, and so I found
Lee.
that, having them choose the song and then, my, dexterity is not the greatest, but I learned that I could fake it with a fake book or a lead
Yeah.
sheet. So that, but my staff now, many of the nurse and the radiology tech, they come and join the backup, choir sort of thing. One person even said, "I don't wanna lose any more weight." I said, "Why?" He said, I don't wanna sing a song when I get to." "No, you don't sing it. We sing it for you." So anyway, not not everyone thinks mu not everyone thinks music is great. Some are, definitely afraid of it, but, I think maybe, that, um, avocation or not, the training is a very experiential sort of, you had to learn, about the connection,
Yeah.
one-on-one with an instrument. I think it could apply to any kind of instrument, And I think that's really neat. And then applying that and with the same level of observation of your own experience, and then sharing it. You have to, right? Music by itself, sure, those moments, but it's a public sort of thing, right?
I agree. That's such a great observation alone. And uh, I actually, when I reflect back to my years at Juilliard, even though half of it was online, I think the skills that I acquired through that type of education, I to this day, in every aspect of my life, I am practicing. So, the discipline, the ability to just sit still and observe and not always be, doing or speaking or talking or filling the air. The ability to just reflect all the time and be so uh go inside and learn what's on the inside rather than always being affected by the noise. I think so many skills that I practice today are actually from when I was training to be a pianist. So that's very true what you
Life,
said there.
life lessons, yeah.
Life lesson.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and hope reserve the right to call you back and talk to you again, if that's okay.
I would love that. And I would love to have you on my channel if that's okay.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate for those who may have caught you in middle way, how do they find you?
Yes, so Steak and Butter Gal, GAL, on all socials, and you can check out my content on all platforms. Thank you.
Thanks again. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our YouTube membership for early access and exclusive live Q&As with me. Just click the join button below or support us with a PayPal in the description.